Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Terry James Gingras, and this is Dr. G's ADHD Chat show trying to make the world safe for ADHDers. I am a clinical psychologist and a neuropsychologist, and I'm also the parent of at least one, if not two, ADHD kids. Well, actually, they're young adults. Well, they're not even so young adults. They're adults. Um, and I also married into a whole group of people who are ADHD, and it's been exciting. It's been interesting. But when we started out with all of this, when my son was born, there was not even a diagnosis of ADHD or ADD for that matter. Though it wasn't until 1980 that ADD was a diagnosis, and it wasn't until 87 that ADHD was a diagnosis. Prior to that, we have some catastrophic term, hyperkinetic reaction of childhood, which was wrong in a number of different ways, but at least that it made the assumption that kids outgrew ADHD. Now we know that that's not the case. Uh, Mostly what happens to ADHDers as they get older is that the overt hyperactivity becomes less obvious. It's still kind of there. If you look closely, you can probably watch a finger tapping or, foot going up and down or something like that. But it's, the kicking over the chairs in the classroom, that kind of stuff is out. Okay, so I last week I did a thing, where I covered a lot of what you have to do with an ADHD adolescent. Okay, adolescents are tricky. Okay, adolescents. Well, first of all, as they mature, their bodies change. Um, their medications may need adjustment, and they want to be treated like adults. Okay, they want all the responsibilities, even if they haven't really done much about demonstrating that. Okay, and the big areas are drinking, driving, and dating. Okay, statistically, ADHDers are way more likely to have car accidents. They're way more likely to have early sex, and they're way more likely. Uh, this is a tricky one because substance abuse. Uh, Kids who are being or treated for ADHD that are on medication are a lot less likely to have problems with addiction. But kids who aren't treated are way more likely to have problems with addiction to various substances, including our old friend alcohol. So, honestly, the best thing you can be doing is showing a consistent good model to your children. You know, there's a saying that your children learn more about how to behave by watching you than they do by listening to your lectures, and that is true, 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 true. Uh, Well-known psychologist named Albert Bandura was kind of the first to talk about uh, that people learn by observation, observational learning, and they don't particularly learn as much, certainly, by just the lecture. It's more how the lecture is presented, that sort of thing, that works for you. Okay, let's do the driving one is easy in some ways. It's first obvious thing, and I don't know why people don't realize this, but for gosh sakes, don't buy him a hot car or her a hot car as their first vehicle. You want something big and slow and solid. Something that'll take a hit and it won't destroy everything inside it. Okay, I mean, I think that's obvious, but I have seen so many people do things that, oh, he'll like this. Yeah, well, he will, but he may kill himself in it. So, no red hot Mustangs or Camaros or Corvettes or any other sporty, fast moving, not very big cars. Just that's just practical. Get them a nice secondhand clunker. Not so bad that they'll be embarrassed to be seen in it, but enough so that they won't be as tempted to try to race somebody, and they won't be tempted. Just see what she'll do. If they press the gas pedal all the way to the floor. So you don't want that, okay? So you try to discourage that. You don't buy them a hot car, okay? You don't, even if you felt deprived all these years because you didn't get a first run Mustang when they came off the line or whatever, get them a junker. Get them a big full-size car, and insist on it. Okay, so that's driving. And driving, you may have, here's, okay, presumably nowadays everybody takes driver's ed. Okay, make sure they get driver's ed, and make sure that even though they have passed the course, make sure they pass your course. They get your approval. I had one of my kids would go into some kind of a hypnotic trance or something driving. Didn't see stop signs, didn't see stop lights, just didn't react. So there was no way that child was going to drive right when he or she turned 16. We waited a while. We drove with Dad, for a while, and till I was satisfied that things were not going to get real messy with her on the road. Okay, I was trying real hard not to say her, but anyway, it was my daughter, and boy. And, she's doing reasonably well now, but ADHDers will tend to have more accidents. Just in general, over the course of their life, they'll just, because, after all, it's attention. That's the problem. And paying attention is important to driving. And you're better off with a kid who's been medicated. They'll have a better time paying attention, and they will, they are less likely to have serious accidents. Okay, so that's the driving thing. Drinking is a whole other thing. Attitudes towards drugs and alcohol are changing so rapidly, it's hard to keep up with. You really don't want them drinking before they're of age. And even then, they need to know that this is not, just because it's legal and it's everywhere, doesn't mean people don't get into trouble with it. Okay? That's an issue that my particular family, we have some alcoholism. So, if you got a relative like that, it'd be a good idea maybe to have your child have some contact with them, especially if they're not in very good shape, just to see this could happen. You got to be careful with this stuff. You've got to always set limits on yourself. You're not going to just go and drink until you don't care anymore. You just, you have a cutoff. When you're, and it depends on the state laws and all that, like when I went to college, I went to college in North Carolina. They had 3-2 beer, lighter beer, less it wasn't the calories, less alcohol, and you could drink when you were 18. Now, I grew up in New Hampshire, and you had to be 21 to drink anything, and so that whole thing is another, because you got two layers there. You've got, is it legal? He's going to get busted because he was doing something it was illegal for him to do, in addition to whatever problems he or she gets in with the drinking. But they need to know that the drinking particularly is nothing to be taken lightly, and you need to be responsible about it, and you need to not drink and drive, even if it's legal to drink. You can't be doing that, and you certainly can't be doing that driving a bunch of your friends around. So they need to know you're serious about this, and they need to know it's a serious issue. And they also need to know that drugs, and that whole thing is getting real confusing with marijuana. Is it legal or is it illegal? Or what are the rules? And my take on that has always been, look, alcohol is hard enough to pay attention to and control and know what you're going to set the rules to be able to handle that. You start mixing in other drugs, and it is a drug, so you start mixing in other drugs, and like I said, it's difficult because it's changing so fast. In some states, Colorado, say, marijuana is legal. I mean, at least then that you're getting your substance of use from a licensed individual who isn't going to try to mix it with God knows what to give you a little bigger buzz and maybe possibly kill you. So there's that. I mean, I always am amazed that people will go to some guy down in a sketchy part of town to get, say, marijuana, and not worry about it at all. Think that's how there's not going to be any problems with that. And yet, over and over again, pretty much every part of the country, there are kids dying because they're using drugs that have been mixed with fentanyl or something like that. They need to know that. And they need to know you're serious about it. And there's no messing around. And that's another one of those things where your behavior has got to be exemplary. You can't talk to them about the evils of alcohol abuse if you come home and have 3 or 4 pops every night after work. Sorry, that's hypocrisy. That'll bite you every time. Okay, so careful with the drug, drinking, that stuff. And you probably, they say scare tactics don't really work, but they need to know that it's serious, and some people get into some serious troubles with this stuff. Okay, and speaking of getting into trouble, dating, sex, boys, girls, all that stuff. Okay, I'm a little long in the tooth now, but I vaguely remember what it was like being a teenage boy, and kind of not sure what was going on, but knowing you weren't in very good control of it. And we know that ADHDers are more likely to have sex than kids who aren't ADHD. So knowing that, the absolute minimum is you need to talk about birth control. Okay, now I know this is going to freak somebody out. I may even get letters. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Would you rather your kid had sex and either got pregnant herself or got a girlfriend pregnant? Or would you rather at least no new life was created? Okay. Now that's the minimum. I'm not saying that should be your total take on it, but you know, you have an impulsive child, and sometimes things happen. At least they could be protected. And I'm not. That's not my best solution, but that's one that you don't want to have a lot of unexpected grandchildren running around, and you don't want to have a lot of angry parents knocking on your door either. Okay, so at a minimum, talk about protection. At a maximum is you need to talk about whatever your personal beliefs are, and that's covers a wide range. We take in religious beliefs and just personal preferences and the way you were raised and all that stuff. So there's a wide range there. So I can't really, say this is the way it's got to be. Some of you have already quit listening to me because I talked about birth control. Okay, but pragmatics is, if they're going to do it, and sooner or later, they are, sooner or later, they should know about birth control. And they should, at a minimum, if they insist on using that, you have handled one problem. Now, I'm not, again, these are not ideal solutions. These are pragmatic solutions. And while I don't always agree with, everything about it, I just know that if they're going to do it anyway, and, it's your kid, you need to know how often does he or she, do stuff that you wish they hadn't done. How impulsive are they? Some kids, there's a wide range in ADHD. Some kids are, not that impulsive, but some are, woo, they go off big time, and you just need to know, and you need to make practical decisions. Okay, not ideal. I mean, I know we'd all like our children to, graduate with high honors from high school, get into the best college they can, and meet a nice girl or meet a nice guy, and and when they graduate from college, get married, get good jobs, da 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 da. Well, you can do whatever fantasy you like. Just know that out there in the world, there's all kinds of stuff that wasn't even there when I was a kid. I mean, it's so you got to deal with it, and you got to deal with it pragmatically. Okay, and that's what I will tell you and advise you. And this is my, based on, I've had a lot of those experiences I tell you you don't want to have, and I have survived. My kids have survived, and we don't have a lot of unwanted grandchildren, and nobody's killed themselves or anybody else on the highway. that's about where our luck ran out. We had some problems with addiction. So, and I don't know if you can, well, you just do the best you can. Okay, and I know this is perhaps not all that reinforcing, but um, I think in most cases, it'll work for you. So, this is Dr. Terry James Gingrass. My website is terrygingrassphd.com. Go ahead and give it a look. You can sign up for some stuff, and I do coaching, and I do a lot of it with ADHD executives. Some of those are entrepreneurs, some of them are in regular corporate, but it's I get pretty good results. I'll just say that. And so if you have an adult in your circle that maybe could use some help, give me a buzz or communicate with me from my website. Okay, I'm using and started using an automated calendar system, but I'm not really good with it yet, and it's just a little safer to just email me, and we will, we can, what's happened is telehealth, okay, telepsychology. What that means is I'm not tied down to my office, which means I'm not there as often as I was, and I'm do some stuff on Zoom, and I do some stuff on my cell phone, just depending. So if you call my office, you probably won't get me for a while, for a couple of days. Anyway, but so you can email me from my website. And then in addition, I am contemplating doing a membership group. If you don't know what that means you pay a little bit every month, $27 or something like that. And you get a certain amount of contact with me. Usually it's an article, Q&A session, and a presentation once a month. And if you might be interested in that, let me know about that too. Okay, so Terry Gingrass, PhD, Dr. G's ADHD chat, show trying to make the world safe for ADHD, and we will catch you next week.